Warren has our thought of the day.
Hello, everyone. Since we're going to be having speeches about the four-way test, I thought the thought for today highlighting Rotarians in action living out the four-way test from the Rotary magazine would be good today. So the highlight from the United States this month: most North American plant species depend on insects, predominantly bees, for pollination. Your whole food web is supported by bees, says Dave Hunter, a member of the Rotary Club of Woodinville, Washington. The club leads a project that nourishes bees while beautifying the Seattle suburb. Members use donated wine barrels to construct planters to attract pollinators. Local businesses can sign up to have one placed at their storefront for a donation of $150 a year to the club's foundation. The planters have QR codes that take visitors to information on the club's website about the program and pollinators' importance. We're not just putting planters out, we're educating through them, says Hunter, proprietor of Crown Bees, which sells bees, bees houses, and other materials. The club also partnered with the city, businesses, a garden club, and a nonprofit organization to host a pollinator fest in May that attracted about 500 people to hear the latest buzz on bees.
You may be seated. Thank you, Kim, for sharing what other clubs are doing for our thought of the day. And we are going to skip happy news today, although I hope everybody had a great weekend. We have one piece of business before we jump into our presentation for today, so I will have Mark Roberts come up with the Paul Harris presentation.
I'm going to make a presentation, but you don't have to rate me, so I don't want to have that. I don't want to have a bad day the rest of the afternoon. So, but I want to talk a little bit about Paul Harris and the Paul Harris Fellow Awards. So, Rotary started in 1905. In 1957. They started out to reward Paul Harris Fellows for every $1,000 that was gifted to the Rotary Foundation. And since that time, in 2006, there's been 1 million recognized people, and there are many since then. That's the latest information I have on the Rotary website. But these programs that Rotary Foundation dollars go to all kinds of different things, from water improvements to work on immunizations to all kinds of different things that Rotary clubs get involved in worldwide. So it's people implementing it, putting funding together, and helping to make things happen. And some of these dollars come back to the Rotary clubs. There's a portion that comes back to us and helps fund some of the things that Rotary clubs around the world want to do. So now I'd like to recognize Tony Joseph for his gifting to the Rotary Foundation. And it's a special award because this is Paul Harris Fellow +7, which means $8,000 gifted to the Rotary Foundation. And I just want to recognize you with a pin and thank you for what you've done. And it's a neat one. So 2 rubies on it, so it's a very nice pen. And Tony, I know you're busy with your business, but I'd like to have you make a couple comments about why you give to the Rotary Foundation.
Sure. Thanks, Mark. Happy to be back in Muscatine at Rotary Club. Not our normal location, but I found it. And good food today. Rotary is, I've lost track of actually when I joined Rotary. I was just talking to Bob, and I remember Floyd Scott playing the piano at the old hotel. So that tells you how long ago that was. And we used to sing, and we had books. So that tells you, again, how long I've been a Rotary. But the main reason I joined Rotary, and it has evolved over time. It started as I was a young business person in 1996, and I wanted to plugged into the business community of Muscatine. And so I joined and started to meet people, Stan Howe and many others who I had lunch with, and the Steins, and they helped me grow it. But as time went along, I realized Rotary wasn't just about what I got from Rotary. It's what I can give to Rotary. And that's really the big thing, is you learn over time as you travel the world what Rotary does. And I'm looking at some folks there who traveled around the world to India and elsewhere, and you're helping people. And that's really my big push. And even with our company, our vision in our company is to give globally and locally. That's the vision of our company. And so Rotary fits that mission for us, and so I'm excited to receive this. I'm happy about this, but I'm also want to encourage everyone else to try to keep that $100 a month going, and if you can do a little extra at the end of the year, please do so, because it does make a difference in people's life around the world. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you for that. I also want to recognize that Angela, Tony's wife, is here too, so she hopefully got pictures, right? Okay, great, thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you. I'm glad we could put that in today, especially with all of our guests here. And thank you for everything that you have given over the years and for encouraging the rest of us to be a part of that. So with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Mark.
All right, I am Mark Hines. I am the Youth Services Chair for the board, and I was tasked with organizing this, I think, first annual, Rotary Speech Contest, Rotary four-way speech contest. Thankfully, I am not one of the contestants. I want to say thank you to a few people, certainly our judge panel over there, folks keeping time, all the Rotarians that showed up today. We have a good number that turned out, and the speech department at Muscatine High, and obviously our contestants who are willing and brave enough to come talk in front of a group of strangers. Also thanks to the MCC speech students who are joining us this afternoon. So some quick rules about today's contest. So loosely, each contestant's speech has to relate to the four-way test. If you don't remember it, here it is. Probably should have it tilted towards the judges' table in case they can't remember. Speeches should range from 5 to 8 minutes. We will be awarding prizes today. So first prize will get $200, and we'll advance to the regional competition where there is a $500 bounty available. Second place will get $100. I will not be introducing speakers by name. I was given very explicit instructions by Rotary so as to not sway anyone by giving out names. So they will be heretofore unidentified unless they choose to do so during their speech. If you could, please take one moment to check your cell phone. Make sure that the ringer is on vibrate or mute, that your screen is turned down, and that you spend the next 20 minutes with us locked in and paying attention to what we came here for. It's kind of nice to be able to tune out the world. There will be approximately 1 minute between speakers, allowing the judges to tally their scores. After all three contestants have given their speeches, I'll run over to the judges' table, we'll do a quick tally, and we will award winners. And just so the winners know, so all the speakers know, we will announce the winners today, but we didn't bring the checks because we didn't know who to write them out to. So they will be in the mail by afternoon, we promise. Without further ado, unless there are any questions from the crowd, Asa, go ahead.
Did you mention the judging criteria?
I did not mention the judging criteria, so let me, so we will be judging, so for a max score of 30 points, delivery, another max score of 30 points, incorporation of the four-way test and the theme of creating hope in the world, and the third category for a score of 40 points is content. So delivery, theme, essentially, content. And there are some tiebreakers in there if need be. Great question, thank you. All right, without further ado, our first contestant.
Hello, my name is Caitlin Ford, and my speech today is about the education system and how we can alter it to benefit the students. I hate school. I hate tests. I hate grades. I hate the educational system. The system is not setting students up for success. It is focused on education rather than application. This needs to change. The education system needs to change because 1, the grading philosophy does not benefit all students. 2, the education system does not identify or reward students with different types of intelligence. And 3, finally, I will be discussing with you all today how the education system can be altered to benefit all types of students. I sit there. I am looking at my grades. I am waiting for my psychology test grade to come in. I refresh 50 million times. And then there it is, an F, a big fat F. I am a junior at Muscatine High School. I was raised in a household where nothing else but grades mattered. But do they represent me as a person? Do they say who I am as a student? Do they say what I will do with my future life? As I look into the mirror after I see that grade, I look down on myself. I started to see a student who did not work hard enough, who did not put enough pressure on herself. I saw a girl who failed. But in reality, I do work hard. I put too much pressure on myself. Grades do not always represent what is achieved. Teenagers in today's world let grades determine their worth. I got an F on that psychology test. So what did I do? I retook it. The AP exam was coming up in May. I studied for a month. I worked my butt off to get that 5. I felt great after taking that exam. I was walking around with my head high. I strutted with confidence in myself and my abilities. I waited and waited and waited for the test scores to come out. I got a 1. But yet, I finished the class with a 96%. I knew the material, and I knew it well. Harvard educator Gerald E. Knesk once said, "As a seasoned educator who has taught in the classroom for nearly 40 years, I see this paradigm consistently. Students have become more focused on rewards and punishments, namely grades, and less on the desired behavior, learning. Students often refer themselves as A students, B students, or C students in conversations with each other and feel a sense of shame when they get failing grades. Growing up, the incentive for children has been primarily focused on rewards and punishments. Rewards and punishments are used in a way to guide students' behavior. Compliance equals A, defiance equals F. Grades are based on compliance and defiance. They do not accurately represent intelligence. The prime example of the misrepresentation of intelligence is Helen Keller. In 1882, at 19 months of age, Helen Keller developed an illness that left her both deaf and blind. As stated by the Helen Keller Foundation, she published 14 books and produced numerous articles. Not only was she outspoken on the needs and issues affecting her fellow deaf and deafblind comrades, Helen was also a courageous supporter of women's rights, women's suffrage, the labor union movement, as well as many other worthwhile and vital causes. The teachers Helen had did not believe in her, but she was still successful. Intelligence does not represent success. A student I know who was in my grade has an F in English. Teachers look down on her. But from 4:30 a.m. to 7:30 a.m., she is welding at a big company. She started at $19.25. She is successful as a 16-year-old girl. If the education system here focused on how the students could apply their skills to the real-life world, the number of successful people would substantially increase. Thank you.
Sorry, I was waiting on the time. All right, excellent start. Thank you so much for your attention. And here is number 2.
Hi, my name is Ariana Davila, and I'll be talking about the American dream. Everyone wants to come to America, land of the free. People immigrate here and want to die here. Well, we make it seem like it's perfect when it really isn't. People are expected to keep their head held high and to never stop for fighting. We make it seem like everyone here wants to die for our country, but that really isn't the case. We make it seem like everyone's resilient, but no one is really. When I think of resilience, I think of the little boy whose dad died when he was young. I think of the little boy who had to quit school at the age of 12 so that he could help take care of his family. I think of the mom who couldn't raise 8 kids on her own. I think of the siblings who had to play mom and dad while their parents worked. I think of the 18-year-old who left Mexico to come to America to give himself a better life. I think of the 18-year-old who then, with nothing and no one, was able to build himself a life from the ground up. I think of the man who then went back to Mexico so that he could bring his siblings to America to give them that life. I think of the man who then raised his younger siblings as their own children with his wife. When I think of resilience, I think of my grandpa. In America, women are told that we are not able to do any of these things. We are expected to be submissive and obedient to men. And we are expected to then live the American dream. But that is not applicable to all people. As a woman, it constantly breaks my heart knowing that I won't ever have the same chances that my grandpa did in this country. Despite my frustrations, I know that I would not change a single thing for him. I know that that fight and that courage that he has in this country is what I need too. It's what I need to make change, and it's what we all need. Every 1 in 3 women deal with sexual harassment on a daily basis. Over 47% deal with this harassment in the workplace. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that these things don't happen to men too, because they do. Every 1 in 33 men deal with sexual harassment on a daily basis, and about 23% deal with this in the workplace. By making the argument that it happens to men too only makes everything at the very least 50 times worse. It justifies the behavior of men towards women, and it hides the fact that it happens to men too. Instead of putting victims against each other, we should be fighting to change this. No little girl should be told that boys will be boys when she is getting bullied at recess. No little boy should be told to man up when he scrapes his knee. No teenage girl should be asked to play the fire truck game. No teenage boy should be told that it wasn't rape because he is not a girl. No woman should be forced into having children that she doesn't even want. And no man should be told to have a manly job when he wants to be something like a hairdresser. At the end of the day, these things should not be happening, man or woman. But sadly, the discrimination does not stop there. In fact, I could be here all day telling you all these things that are wrong, but I would just be covering the tip of it. Women are expected to be submissive to men because if we aren't, we're taking away a part of their manhood. And men are expected to be this manly, macho man that works a blue-collar job, or else he's not providing for his family in the right way. We should be fighting to break down these expectations. But these expectations are put in force of the American dream. The American dream is drilled into our heads at a young age. It is the standard, it is what we should all thrive for. But they did not tell us that these dreams are only attainable if you are born a male, if you're white, and if you're straight. As a gay Mexican woman, I'm telling you that I can't even fathom what the American dream would look like. I don't have that type of privilege. And if I did, I don't think I would want it, because I don't want to live your standard. I don't want to be seen as perfect, because I've always been told that I must be perfect. All women are. We are expected to sit to the side with a pretty smile. We are expected to be obedient. We are expected to dress to your standard. We are expected to be your little pets. The little pets that you can dress up and only bring out for show and tell. And I'm telling you that I am just so sick of it. I will not be your little pet, and I will not be the standard. I do not want to live your American dream. I want to live the American dream that is attainable to all people, regardless of race, gender, and sexuality. I want to live the true American dream. Thank you.
Last but not least, number 3.
Hello. I have written my speech for you today about comedy and the repercussions of its misuse. I hope that you all enjoy it. America. We have had our share of unforgettable moments, haven't we? Building the first transcontinental railroad, sending a man to the moon. And that time Will Smith slapped Chris Rock at the Oscars. You remember? Keep my wife's name out of your... Yeah. The way the slap affected our population was astounding. It internationally split people into 2 categories. Those who thought that Chris Rock, who had made a jab at Jada Pinkett Smith's hair loss, a result of her autoimmune disorder, had gone too far, and those who thought that it was just a joke. And for every scandal there is involving an insensitive joke, this is usually the trend, isn't it? That someone either went too far or that it was just a joke. And this trend extends past celebrities. We see it even in our homes. When our relatives comment on how big you've gotten, and if you're like me, in a Mexican household, you are getting told how big you've gotten every other holiday. Yet these things are often justified immediately with being just a joke. Now, jokes often have format, one of the most famous formats being setup, build, punchline, and naturally, every joke has an audience. My concern, however, is that the jokes we tell are often not to amuse our audience, but to hurt others and call it acceptable, to spread not entertainment, but intolerance. In a way, we've been conditioned and desensitized to responding with that ultimatum. It was just a joke. As human rights activist Nicholas Agustini puts it, jokes can be used as an alibi to shield jokers from criticism or prevent serious discussions, and I fear that this, combined with the sensitization, can allow these jokes to escalate dangerously. So today, let's set up the ways we misuse joking. Next, we'll build upon our knowledge of the harms of doing so before concluding with an improved punchline. Now, believe it or not, famous people say heinous things a lot. Actually, more like all the time. For example, rapper, singer, songwriter Kanye West. In 2022, stated he preferred his children knew about Hanukkah instead of Kwanzaa because it would come with some financial engineering. And with that, thousands of people rushed to his defense, tweeting or Xing their explanations towards how Kanye was just joking or how what he said was actually funny. Kanye West, who has accumulated 57.5 monthly listeners on Spotify, is one of the many celebrities who've modeled that someone can escape accountability from anti-Semitism if they just use the guise of a joke. And humanity has been doing this since we learned to put pen to paper. Before what would eventually unfold to become one of the worst genocides known to humanity, the Holocaust. The Nazi Party and its ideological allies would often use political cartoons portraying Jewish people as grotesque caricatures, often even animals such as snakes, pigs, and octopuses, disguising hateful stereotypes of an entire people into what they deemed comedy. Our world is doing this right now. During the genocide against the Palestinian people, Israeli influencers are posting digital skits mocking Palestinians with caricatures, using makeup and clothing to portray stereotypes that are both Islamophobic and racist, to dehumanize the severity of this atrocity an entire people. These forms of comedy frequently complement the process of crimes against humanity. The same way that a joke generally has 3 parts: setup, build, and punchline, so does propaganda. persuasion, messages, and call to action. Comedy is one of the most effective forms of persuasion, almost always present when we reflect on the history of intolerance and delivering messages to dehumanize a common enemy. Dr. Wida Mehran, researcher for behavioral sciences on terrorism and political aggression, even found in her research that multiple terrorist groups frequently used comedy in their online publications to galvanize the curious and place emphasis on us versus them mentality. The responses that we've had towards prejudicial humor are noticeably synonymous to the responses that were commonplace throughout history. Indifference and the justification that people just can't take a joke. And although the consequences of being desensitized to insensitive comedy vary from blossoming into a historical tragedy and being a tweet you read once and never think about again, when the jokes we tell involve dehumanizing others, the effects they have can still be tremendous. The effects are tremendous, and they're being felt by everyone in the United States. Felt by the students at the Davis School District in Utah, which had at least 212 incidents of Black students being called the N-word, which resulted in several instances of district officials telling these students not to be so sensitive. Felt by Cass Steiner, a transgender student at Marie Mont High School who in September of last year was informed she'd been voted homecoming princess as a joke. Felt by a Muslim student attending Marquardt Middle School who was persistently alluded to being a terrorist by her own peers, who was told to sit down when she attempted to defend herself from eventual physical attacks, and they were felt by me. 1 out of 5 other Hispanic students in the 5th grade I attended in rural Iowa. It is no wonder that the anti-immigrant laws established in Florida of last year were met with as much praise as they were, because children are being introduced to the humanization in playgrounds, in jokes. The abuse of comedy to get away with hatred will always have repercussions when that person's identity becomes a punchline. So much so that in a study published by the National Library of Medicine, results found that on days which students experience ethnically based teasing, they reported significantly higher amounts of social anxiety in their own schools. We are experiencing an epidemic of cruelty, veiled as comedy. So what's the solution? Now, a common element in making an effective punchline is irony. I'd like to point out that the solution to this problem is ironic, because it's simple and involves only 8 words. We've been told them since kindergarten. Say it with me, everybody. Just kidding, you're not allowed to say anything right now. Treat others how you want to be treated. Yet since the genesis of mankind, we've had trouble doing this. Even at the tournaments I've competed in for speech, which advocate consistently for kindness, have I too often seen condescension towards other competitors veiled as innocent humor, so I will instead propose this to you. I propose that everyone in this room take only 5 seconds to remember the joke which they've never forgot. And I propose now that we consider how much more confident we'd be today if that person just never made you their punchline. But the steps in preventing this do not just lie in how conscientious we are, but also the people we choose to associate ourselves with. Again, we are told in kindergarten to treat others the way you want to be treated, and I think it's time we revise this mantra. Because by not holding the people we associate ourselves with accountable for their jokes, we are by omission reinforcing their insults and too often hateful ideals. But for as long as hatred exists, so too will propagandic comedy. Now that we've learned how persuasive comedy really can be, I propose finally that we take into consideration the power of humor the next time we encounter media, which satirizes another group of people. Even when it is a post from our friends, even when it's administered by our own political leaders, realize that just as quickly as it takes for you to listen to a joke be told, it's just as quickly as it takes for you to unconsciously internalize it as true. I implore you all today, do not abuse setup, build, and punchline, but instead use empathy, integrity, and awareness. Thank you.
Not jealous of you guys. Okay, we're gonna take 2 to 3 minutes, confer over here. I'm sorry. While we're doing that, and we're putting Alex on the spot, he's gonna come up and talk about the speech program as suggested by our president.
My name is Alex Osbaker. I've been with Muscatine High School for 7 years now. I teach AP Psychology. I'm also an instructional coach at the high school. I took over the speech and debate program last year. We kind of had a COVID hiatus where we didn't have a program, so we're slowly bringing that up. Muscatine High School has a rich tradition of speech and debate. We send kids to nationals every single year. We're getting back to that point. We're rebuilding. We sent a girl to nationals this year. She qualified about 2 weeks ago. So if you know kids who are interested, who want to join the program, please have them reach out to me, and we'll continue that tradition. So thank you.
We also I didn't do a great job at the beginning of introducing all of our guests. Naomi, do you want to say anything about all the guests that you brought, including our judge who left in discussion?
And just a reminder, we did record all of the speeches, and Jeremy Ferguson, my colleague, is here, and you'll find those on Channel 9 and also on our YouTube. So in the back, we have several of our speech students who have, instead of going to class, right? Is this your class time? So whenever we have opportunities for people, our students, to see something in action, we want to include them here. So they're actually students of Ryan Cockerell, who is one of our newest instructors in speech. He just started in January. And so we're just getting to know him. Now that Ryan's out of the room, is he a pretty good instructor? Good. Okay, all right, good. That's good to know. So I've also invited 2 special people. I'm sorry, Shelley, you're also special, but but 2 special people who represent the old and the new. So Lisa Weigel retired in December after 42 years of service as the Senior Executive Assistant. And she's back today to help train Courtney Cooper, who is our new Senior Executive Assistant, on day 4. Courtney also helps us with our theater productions, and I think you had your eye on some of these contestants here? Just a little bit. Yes. So you may see them in future productions. And then Shelley Cram-Rolfe has joined us for other meetings as well. She's our Dean of Students. I think those are all of my MCC people. Yes. We have a guest here also from the Bettendorf Rotary Club.
Scott Nauman.
Scott, very good, thank you. So tomorrow night, in this very room, we are hosting Squatters on Red Earth. And that is a play written by Mary Swander. She's a former poet laureate of Iowa. And that is put on by the Stanley Center for Peace and Security, the New Indigenous Coalition of Muscatine, and Muscatine Community College. It's a one-man play and promises to be really, really interesting. It has to do with Meskwaki living alongside the members of the Amana colonies and how they made their lives together side by side. Carolyn has actually seen the play before and recommended that we host it. The ICM, the Indigenous Coalition of Muscatine, is a new group in Muscatine, and so there'll be a panel after the play, and people will be able to meet some of the members of the ICM. So it promises to be a really, really great evening. Mary is one of my favorite people to work with, and she'll do a really, really nice job. What time does it start? The play starts at 6 p.m., and there's a reception also following the play with a nice charcuterie board that I've ordered. So, yep. I think that's all I have, Megan. I am going to Des Moines tonight, if you were. I can go through my agenda.
Perfect. Well, since we skipped Happy News at the beginning, I'm keeping an eye on their movement in our direction.
Mike Ruby and I last weekend out at Newton at our PE training. So I think once Megan hands over her reign June 30th. No, I'm not. Still got a couple months. I can take over. So we're excited about that. But this is exciting because I don't know if a lot of people know, but Tom Nair, past governor of District 6000, passed, and he was the educator for a very long time. He's the one that set the rules for this speech contest, so it's a big dedication to him. And I just found out that West Liberty is potentially going to be the host site for the regional speech contest. So for those of you that enjoyed listening, and whoever your winner is, more details to come with.
Right, everyone. The moment you've all been waiting for. All of the judges are resigning for the next year. That was very difficult and stressful on them, which is a testament to all three of you. You all did a wonderful job. Like I said, I definitely didn't interview you before, and I'm not doing this next year. I might not even come at all. I'm very nervous. Okay, so, sort of hearkening to that point, with such fierce competition, the judges didn't feel right about anyone going home empty-handed. So we're going to keep first and second place with $200 and $100 respectively, and third place will go home with a crisp $50 bill. I think we can all agree that these young ladies did an excellent job. Let's give them a... Excellent. So, in third place with The American Dream is Ariana Davila. You can just stand and... In second place with a yet-to-be titled speech is Caitlin Ford. And in first place, with Just a Joke, is Grace Fisher. Thanks again to everybody for coming out. Thank you to the brave young ladies who stood up in front of a group of strangers and talked about some tough topics. Let's do it again next year. Thanks, everybody. Oh, sorry, we have to end with the four-way test. This was like the whole reason for all these speeches. Can't wait to be president. It'll be super smooth. All right. Of the things we think, say, or do. Is it true? Is it fair?